Never heard of the Millennium Falcon? Should I have? It's a ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
Welcome back, everybody. We are on Kessel Run Weekly. We're back on the main channel. This is Cheyenne, like usual, but this week I have a special guest with me. I have Lauren joining me.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Cheyenne.
Of course. Thank you for being here. So Lauren and I met mutually through Star Wars, as we do. But we actually moderate a Facebook page together, which is really cool. It's definitely an interesting side of Star Wars I never thought I would see. And I appreciate Lauren's guidance through it all. But let's get to know Lauren really quick. So I do have a few questions for you. My first is, when did you get into Star Wars?
Oh, wow. So I think Star Wars has always kind of been there. I mean, I remember watching the original trilogy on VHS and just watching that like over and over and over. So it's kind of always been there. And then when the prequels came out, got really excited. Then obviously I thought that was kind of like the end of it, I know, with the movies. But then sequel trilogy came out and kind of reinvigorated my love for it. So, yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. These are kind of just like fun, silly ones. So your favorite character, if you had to pick one.
Ooh, I gotta go with Ahsoka Tano. She's so my favorite. Like, just her whole journey that we have seen throughout Clone Wars and Rebels. It's so good. Yeah. And hopefully there's more to come.
Yeah, it gives me chills just thinking about it. You're so right. If you had to pick a least favorite, so you don't hate them, but they are your least favorite.
For me, it's Boba Fett. I am not. Yeah? I have never been a big Boba Fett fan. I think he's cool. Like his character's cool. The armor, the Mandalorian stuff, I love. But yeah, he's just okay.
Yeah,
he's cool.
I agree with you. It's comforting to know that I'm not alone in that.
No, for sure.
Because when I discovered that like he had such a big following, I was just like, why?
It's crazy, right? Like, it's huge, too. Yeah. Like, I didn't realize it either, like, how massive of a following he has, which is cool. Like, I mean, obviously, if that's your stuff, that's your stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Star Wars.
Yeah, my mom is one of those people. I didn't know that about her. Whenever her and I were talking about, like, our favorite characters and stuff, I was kind of jumping around. I found Kira, and when I found Kira, that was it. I was like, yes, this is her. This is my fave. But with her, she was like, I mean, I've always loved Boba Fett. I just didn't know there was this community behind it. So now she's like all into it. It's so funny.
Nice. That's cool, though.
Yeah. What is your favorite lightsaber battle?
Oh, wow. I have so many. You know what? Honestly, one of my favorites it has to be Force Awakens with Rey and Kylo. That's just, the whole moment when the lightsaber goes to her and, that whole interaction in their fight. I love it. It's so good. I think it's up there with Rise of Skywalker, too. I actually like their fight on Death Star. Yeah. It's one of my favorites, too. But I got to go with Force Awakens, just a little bit higher than that.
Yeah. It is good. It's a very, like, intense one, too. Like, not just, like, lightsaber itself, but, like, the emotion behind it all is very intense.
Yeah, yeah.
Your favorite quote, if you can think of one, because I know there's so many.
I mean, I think my always go-to is "May the Force be with you." I think it's just such a simple, yet it means so much. Even when you say it to like a fellow Star Wars fan, like they get it. Like it's just like, oh yeah, it's there. It's just how like we all greet each other or say goodbye. Like may the Force be with you. I love it.
Yeah, that's such a good way to look at it too. This one is a little deeper if you want it to be. But what keeps you coming back to Star Wars?
I think it's just the storytelling I love. Like, I mean, with animation so far, I mean, they've been really knocking it out of the park with all the animation storytelling. And then really, honestly, though, it's kind of community like us, like the Facebook group, the podcasting community. It's just so much fun talking Star Wars to, like, other Star Wars fans. Like, it's just like a riot. Like, you get different perspectives and different ideas that maybe you never thought of. So it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And that, for me, I didn't know it was out here. Similar to my mom, I didn't even really know it existed. Her and I drug her to Celebration Orlando 2017 or 16. Nice. Yeah. So I was here on my seasonal job, and I was like, Mark Hamill's in town. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, there's a thing called Star Wars Celebration, and we have to go right now. So that just like pulled me right in, and here we are. Yeah. The last two are a little fun. So if you could own any creature in Star Wars universe, what would it be? So like pet, sidekick, anything like that.
A loaf cat. I want a loaf cat. Just
nice.
Give me a loaf cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're my favorite.
Cuddly yet ferocious.
Rebels. Yeah, exactly. I gotta go with a loaf cat for sure.
Nice. I love that you like knew that too. Because for me, I was just like, I don't know. I still don't know.
There's a lot of good choices.
There's so many.
A lot of cool. Great.
Yeah. And I'm reading Master and Apprentice right now, and I just got to a part without spoilers. Are you okay if I mention it?
Oh, go ahead.
So there's a part where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are riding Varactals, which he rides in Revenge of the Sith. And I knew that I had heard the name before, but I wasn't aware that it was that. And because he's on a different planet, so I didn't think that it would be the same animal.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I do love those. Those are fun.
They're so cute.
They're so cute. Yeah. Last question, another fun one. What color would your lightsaber be?
Purple. 100%
nice.
Purple. I love Mace Windu's lightsaber because it's purple.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted I think the purple lightsaber is just I don't know why I love the color purple, but purple lightsaber 100%.
That's awesome. Yeah. I also love that it kind of just came to light. I mean, I'm sure it's been out there forever, but like just came to light of how George and Samuel had that conversation.
Oh yeah, that's so funny.
So funny. It's so chill too. It's very, very much their personalities.
Right.
Like George was just so casual about it.
Yeah. It seems like I want to be noticed. I want to know where I am.
Yeah.
Give me a purple lightsaber.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Here you go. Have it. I'm not going to say no to you.
Right, yeah. George is like, nope, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this episode. I hope everybody enjoyed hearing those answers. It's one of my favorite parts of interviewing new people, is getting to know everybody just in general. I know we conversate back and forth constantly, but I just love the Star Wars insight into people, you know?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun.
It is. So we're talking Asajj Ventress today.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, so kind of my first question is a two-parter, but also that means the same thing. So I want to know why you wanted to talk about her. So for the listeners, I do ask my guests if they have somebody particular they want to talk about. Like I interviewed 2 cosplayers. They cosplayed the characters that we talked about. And I reached out to them with that proposal, and then I was like, you know what, I should ask my guests if they have somebody in particular, and if I haven't talked about them, let's go ahead, because that's going to help me. I don't know much about her. So knowing why you chose her, but also in tandem with that, what she means to you.
Mm-hmm. So I think Asajj Ventress is just one of those characters that has such a rich story arc from like beginning to end. And it's such like a Star Wars like story arc, and I loved it. Obviously we have our great female heroes. We have Leia, we have Rey, we have Holdo. You could name a bunch of female great heroines of us to look up to. But it's cool to see, like, from the, Sith perspective in a female being in that type of environment. So I think that's why she kind of, that's what drew me to her. Mm-hmm. And I think she's just so, again, like her whole arc of just, going from being a Night Sister to going to being a Padawan, to losing her master, to, being betrayed by Dooku after he, pulls her in to be a Sith. And just that roller coaster of, like, her story is just amazing. And I loved it so much, because there's so much there to take in and to dive into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great point. And speaking of that, so we meet her as a Sith apprentice, technically, because Dooku identifies as such. And before we learn, but that's all before we even learn any more of her story. So what was her kind of the moment that you realized that she was one of your favorites? So which part of her story were you like, okay, I'm getting there, you know?
So, I mean, her introduction was cool. I mean, that when you see her in the movie, the Clone Wars movie, you know, you see this female, like, Sith with 2 red lightsabers, you're like, wow, this is really, really cool.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get more into her story. And I think it was when when Dooku betrays her, and she is basically, like, literally on her own after that. Like, she's, you know, she goes back to Mother Townsend, she goes back to the Night Sisters, tries to kind of go back to, you know, find family. Yeah, like that. It's done. Like, that's part of her story. Just trying to find family. You know, she thought she had it with Dooku, and he betrays her. You know, she goes back to the Night Sisters and Mother Townsend, and, you know, she tries to kind of get back to that, and then, you know, that falls apart after, you know, Grievous comes and kind of destroys all that. And then she's literally on her own, you know, then she has to, you know, kind of go about it on her own and becomes a bounty hunter and does stuff with Boba Fett and that crew. So it's a really wild story, and I think it was at that point, though, when I think she is betrayed by Dooku, and then that her whole story just kind of takes a really awesome turn of, like, redemption. And, you know, obviously, if you read the Dark Disciple book, it goes even into more of all that. But yeah, I think that was the moment, though, when she had to basically start fresh, you know, right after Dooku, you know, abandons her and doesn't want her to be her apprentice anymore. Yeah,
no, absolutely. It's definitely, like, such a different moment, too, that we don't typically see in Star Wars. So, speaking of just her story in general, how do you think, so I love kind of just, like, the what ifs, talking in character form.
Yeah, me too.
So, like, what do you think would have happened if she hadn't been put into slavery?
Yeah, that's such a... And I remember when you posed me this question, I was like, man, it's a really interesting one, because you could kind of still take it in many different ways. Like, if she, you know, if she stays the Padawan, you know, does Dooku still maybe, or does this, you know, the dark side still pull to her, just like Anakin, you know? Because I've always felt that, like, her story is kind of very parallel to Anakin, to where, you know, they lost a family and things like that. You know, it almost drove them to, you know, following the darker path and not being able to stay on that light side, that light path. So, you know, I think honestly, I still think she would have maybe gone down the path she would have. You know, even if she, you know, doesn't gets out of slavery and stays a Padawan and, you know, tries to follow the Jedi Order. I feel like almost she might have even followed kind of Ahsoka, where maybe she leaves the Jedi Order too. Yeah. You know, at that point, because I think she, you know, she reminds me of Ahsoka in that respect too, because she, you know, she sees kind of both sides. Yeah. You know, kind of like Ahsoka finally did after a while. That she saw what the Jedi were doing was good, but then she saw the bad as well. And I think that's what, you know, Asajj did as well. She saw, you know, the good that she felt with what they were doing with the Sith and what her and Dooku were doing, trying to, you know, help the galaxy in their own way. But then she gets betrayed, and then she sees it in a totally different way. So yeah, I still think her path. You know, and for me in Star Wars, I think your path is almost destined, because I think it always comes back to it. You know, I think even if Anakin doesn't turn at that moment, does he turn still because of X, Y, and Z? You never know. Right. I feel like, you know, I think that's why I feel like Asajj, her destiny was always going down the path that she went on, for sure.
Interesting, yeah, because I also consider her like originally like a good person, you know, like she was. There wasn't any saying that she wasn't, and like even when she became a quote unquote bad person, like she knew right from wrong, and she just was like, I just have to fight for what's right for me, and this seems to be right for me right now. Yeah. So it's such an interesting.
Yeah, very like she, you know, she was out for herself, but then she was, you know, sympathetic to people, though. So it's like she always had a little bit of a Jedi in her. Yeah. From, you know, and it never went full. But then, you know, again, the dark side, as we know, is sometimes stronger, and she kind of still, you know, led down that darker path. So yeah, totally agree with you. Totally agree.
And it tends to, I mean, it's a theme, you know, that's kind of the point of the dark side, is like when you start to lose yourself, it starts to pull you in even more. And I feel like that's big on, like you said, like her her and Anakin both have that. They start to lose themselves because something else in the dark side is like, here, come here.
Yeah.
I've got you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I got you.
I got you. It's fine. And then they don't. So our next one is something that I don't know much about. I already don't know much about Asajj as a character. I do like her, but I just never kind of knew insider details. So this one was kind of a side story what if for her that I thought of. So we know that Mother Talzin and Palpatine have a troubling relationship. Ultimately, Sidious is the reason that Talzin dies. Because of, like, after his fight with Savage and Maul, she, like, gives her energies to them, right? And then passes into the spirit world. So technically she's not, like, gone. But in the spirit world, it's different. I don't know any more details. If that's just it, then great. I know it. But if they had, like, so if it would a team up, Darth Maul, Savage, Mother Talzin, Ventress, and then maybe the other sisters go along with them. If they had ambushed Sidious like the brothers did, do you think the outcome would have been different? Or how do you think that fight would have even gone down? Like, what cool moves would we have seen?
Yeah. And, again, great question. So, I think of it this way. Even if they would have done that, so if you had Maul and Asajj and Mother Townsend and all the Night Sisters and even the brothers trying to overthrow, Sidious, I still think he wins, honestly, because he was such, as we know, Sidious was such a master planner, and he had things going on that a lot of people didn't know, and that he always kept everything close to the vest. So, like, who knows what he would have had planned. I mean, once he found, obviously in Clone Wars, we know that once he felt Maul and Asajj oppressed, and Mandalore, he went to Mandalore because he knew that was going to screw everything up. So he personally went there to stop it. So, like, he had ways of putting the kibosh on everything. So it would have been very interesting, though. I do agree where I think it would have been a very interesting battle between, honestly, Mother Townsend and Sidious, because, I don't think a lot of people give Mother Townsend credit to where she was very powerful. And I think people misconstrued, like, what she had as magic and everything like that. Me, personally, I always thought that it was the Force, but it was just, like, a way she was using the Force.
Yeah.
Like, it was just how the Night Sisters were interpreting the Force themselves and how they were using it. So, and obviously we know Sidious used that black magic or whatnot. I mean, he definitely was aware of it, and that's why I reached out to Mother Townsend. But that would have been interesting, I think, that fight of Mother Townsend versus Sidious. Like, if they were kind of both at their peak, that would have been a very interesting battle. But I still think Sidious would have won. He was such a master planner. I mean, he really is. He was just like 10, 20, 30 steps ahead of everybody, knew what was going on ahead of everybody. I mean, the only person I think that might have rivaled Sidious was Yoda. I mean, honestly, as far as knowing what was going on. But I don't think the Night Sisters, brothers, and Mother Townsend and all of them, I don't think they would have won, to be honest. I think they would have been destroyed.
Yeah. When I posed the question, I thought the same thing. I was just like, God, like, I would love to think that teaming up all these people that know, like you said, kind of how to use the Force in such a different way would have different methods to fighting, but, like, he knows that, like, he seems to know everything. And, like, him coming back in, let's go sequel trilogy for a second. So him, like, coming back into the sequel trilogy, I thought it was so cool. Like, I originally, when I heard the idea, I was like, what would be the point of that? And then I thought about it more, like, just kind of on my own. And I was like, that'd be pretty cool, actually, because then it's just like he knows everything, and that's what makes him such a good big bad in the universe. And even though he was gross in the sequel trilogy,
super gross.
Like, God, it was so much worse. Like, the crack face was already nasty, but, like, ew.
Everything else.
Everything was just escalated in the sequel trilogy. But I was just like, I mean, this is pretty cool. So like, whether or not anybody, like, agrees or disagrees with the elements of that story, the fact that he was the puppeteer for so long. And when people thought he was gone, like, he shadowed his existence originally from the Jedi, and then he continued to shadow it after his death.
It's crazy.
So much so, yeah, that somebody like Rey, who was so powerful and also familially connected to him, couldn't tell that he was there.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like,
right.
That's insane to me.
And that's what I really liked about the book, too. I don't know if you read the novelization.
I haven't yet.
Yeah, oh, it's so good. It does a really good job of kind of explaining a little bit about that. They kind of go more a little bit in depth of, like, what... Like, we see him in the beginning of the movie, like, you know, Kylo describes it. It is really cool. I highly recommend reading the book. It gives more depth for me on the movie. So, like, when I'm gonna watch it, when I'll watch Tross again, like, I'll see it in a different way now, just because of how the book explains things. It made a lot more sense, for sure. Yeah,
I am very excited to read it. I definitely, when I saw that it was coming out and stuff, I was like, okay, well, because I've never read the movie novelizations.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, and I was just like, I guess I gotta get into that, and I guess I could just do it backwards. Like, I'll just get Rise of Skywalker first, and then know all of that. And then, because I'll be honest with you, and I don't mean to, like, divert from the Asajj questions, but when I first saw the movie, I was floored. Like, when I left The Last Jedi, I didn't talk the whole ride home. And we got home, and my mom was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I was like, I don't know what's going on. That was amazing, and also I'm confused. Like, there was just so many feelings that I didn't know how to feel about a movie before, you know? And Rise of Skywalker did the same thing to me. But instead, my reaction was like, I love it! Like, I was just, like, ready to, like, come to terms and be okay with everything. Because I was just emotionally... what's the right word? Like, empty after it. I was like, this is it. Like, it concluded for me well. Well enough. And I know not everybody agrees with that, but just, there's obviously, like, issues with it in general, but there's issues with everything. And I just, like, having joined this fandom and, like, seen kind of how it works and stuff, I'm just like, I've always been one of those people that, like, I love these movies, and so even with these problems in it, like, I'm gonna love them. It's never gonna, nothing is ever gonna happen in these movies that's gonna ruin it for me, you know?
No, 100% agree. Yeah, 100% agree. I felt the same way, too, when I, after The Force Awakens, I loved it. Loved the movie. I was so glad that the franchise is back. Again, Last Jedi, first viewing, I was just very, very basically spot on with you. Like, I liked it. There was so much to love about it, and then I was, like, so confused. When I liked it, I was just like, I don't know where I'm at with this. And then, honestly, again, reading the Last Jedi novelization changed everything for me.
Oh, nice.
And it made it that much better. Like, I was just like, oh, wow, okay, this is great. Like, I already kind of liked it, but then that just took it into another level.
Oh, good
to
know.
So, again, same thing with Tross. Like, I liked the movie. Again, I had some issues with certain plot points and storylines, but that's okay. I'm not the one writing it. I'm not the one making the movie. So I'm cool with whatever you give me. But again, the Tross novel does a great job of expanding it and giving it more depth. So if people, if you watch the movies, that's fun. I would so recommend reading books. It gives more depth. It's not just the novel, the novelizations of the movies, but just all canon. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, that's why I really love getting into the canon stuff, because originally when I started reading Star Wars books, I was like, I'm just going to read, like, legend stuff, because it'll be just, like, fun stories that I don't have to worry about knowing much about anymore. Like, and then canon exploded, and I was like, okay, well, now I got to do this. Like, I got to just go for it. So, and, like, I mean, I've found so many books that I've loved because of that. But, yeah, the novelizations, I've been just kind of like teetering on getting them, so it's definitely, I think it's something that I just need to invest in. And I'm also like gonna invest in the art of Star Wars books.
Yes, I have those. They're so good.
They look amazing, and every time one comes out, I'm like, okay, like, I'll get it when I have $40, and then I just don't. And I listen to Blast Points I don't know if you've listened to them before, but Jason and Gabe are hilarious. And even when they do Art of Star Wars, I'm just, like, amazed at everything that's in those books. So I just got to do it. And I just love the movie magic of it all, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and
they're
I think...
great. I have the Force Awakens and Last Jedi and I have all three.
Nice.
And I know there's one for Rebels that I can't wait till that comes out. Wow. Yeah, there's one Art of the Rebels book, yeah.
Oh, so, man.
It's so cool, too, in those books. I know we're totally off topic.
It's okay.
But again, it's just like books and I'll start again. So, like I have all three, the Art of books, the Rebels Art of books coming out, and they're just really cool. Again, like what TV and comics do, and all of it, they tie in this franchise that we love so much, and it makes it that much better. But yeah, highly recommend all those Art of books. They're so good. They're so good. I'm
so excited. Yeah, I'll probably just have to invest some time and money into that. Right. So my last question relating to Asajj, really quick. So the reason I even thought of this one is I really love Darth Maul. He's my favorite. So when I was 4 is when Phantom Menace came out. Yes. Okay. And so when I went, the listeners have probably heard this story way too many times, so I'll shorten it. But when I went to the theater, I watched it, and then my mom took me and my sister every day for the rest of the week. Nice. And I ended up with like a Darth Maul lightsaber toy. Awesome. And I just loved him as a kid. And then as I grew into an adult, I was fascinated by him, which is what made me think about his relationship with Kenobi, which is what, in turn, made me think about this question. So Asajj also has a special relationship with Kenobi, and he tends to have that with his enemies for whatever reason. He's very charismatic with his enemies. But why do you think that Asajj's relationship with Kenobi meant anything to her?
I think Kenobi, he just has, like you were just saying, he's so charismatic, and just because of how he's a Jedi, he had so much empathy for, any character, anybody, like you said, even Maul. He probably saw what, Asajj went through and what she's been probably going through, and he probably just, he felt bad for her, just like he probably felt bad for Maul. Yeah. So, I love that because I think her relationship and their relationship together, it gave that, again, more depth to Asajj, because then she started maybe trusting another person, which she didn't really trust a lot of people outside of maybe herself, really. And that even kind of goes into like Dark Disciple, where, he was the one that suggested they use Asajj to go after Dooku and, have Quinlan Voss, join up with her and all that. So so she wasn't a Sith anymore, and, still Obi-Wan trusted her. He trusted her to do the right thing, which was, again, such a Kenobi thing to do. Yeah. Always trusting his enemies at some time.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. I think that's it. Do you have any, thoughts and notes that you want to leave the people with on Asajj Ventress?
Well, honestly, she is, if you haven't watched Clone Wars, I don't know why you haven't, but if you haven't, dive in. And there are so many good characters, especially her. Her arc is so good, and I think it parallels Anakin's as far as, her ups, her downs, her, redemption at the end, as we know in Dark Disciple. It's so good. It's so good. There's so much to, invest in her, and so much to learn about her, and she's just a great character overall.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. I really appreciate you being here and teaching me a lot about Asajj via those questions. It was really fun. I hope I can have you back on one day.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
These character chats are just something that I'm fascinated by, so I also appreciate just your insight in general. We all come from different parts of the fandom, so just to have that and to share that with our community and our listeners is really exciting. Lauren, do you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Shai, for having me on.
Of course.
It's a good time, as always. Love talking Star Wars with a fellow female as well. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm trying to do Instagram a little more. At Low Road Knows. You can follow the GALactic Podcast at the GALactic Pod on Twitter. We are on Spotify, Apple Pod, Google Play, Podbean. And yeah, go out and support.
supporting our fellow podcasters, and especially our fellow females in the fandom is super important, especially right now.
Yes, yes,
it's one of my favorite things about the Kessel Run Weekly family is a lot of us are females in it, and we love to kind of just advertise that and make sure that people are aware that we're getting views and insights from everywhere. So again, appreciate you for being here. You can find. Yeah, of course. You can find me personally at CJerica on Instagram, at CJerica95 on Twitter. Please help me on Twitter. I have no followers, and I'm funny on Twitter. I'm not funny anywhere else. You can read my Star Wars Sunday blogs at CheyenneHoover.wordpress.com, slowly being rebranded into the Kyber Crystal. And then don't forget to check out the main channel, Kessel Run Weekly, here on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have our KesselRunWeekly.com, and then we also have Twitch streams. Danny does post the Twitch stream schedule typically every Monday because it changes weekly, so keep an eye on Instagram for that. Other than that, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Lauren, for being here. May the Force be with you.
Always.